All right, there we go. Welcome everybody back to the Liverpool Reaction American LFC podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Coach Ralph. Coach, good morning. Interesting game yesterday.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on kind of what happened, and how we doing overall in form? Do you think? But I think overall we should just kind of touch on the game. The game was very exciting.
it was an interesting game. It was an interesting game because obviously Nottingham Forest have been a big surprise this year. And looking at the game, I think it's very easy to see why, because um, they're kind of bucking the trend overall in the Premier League. Like they're certainly not trying to build out of the back and put 100 passes together and take things from there. I think the manager has done an excellent job in looking at who he has available to them, putting them in a system which plays to their strengths, and then tactically not trying to do anything that they're not capable of doing. And what happened last night was Liverpool found that very, very difficult to cope with. I don't totally agree with some who are saying that Liverpool started poorly. I thought they started okay, actually, and I think the first 10 minutes kind of summed up the first half from the perspective. Liverpool had possession, and they had three
Mm-hmm.
shots, all from outside the box, all over the bar, and that was about as good as it got for Liverpool in the first half because they just couldn't get into the penalty box, essentially because Nottingham Forest played a pretty steady and strong low block, and they played it well, and
Yeah,
they played,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
then
mid block, low block, all block.
yeah, totally. And then the only serious attack that they had in the first half, they scored. And I saw one person who was criticising Allison for not saving it, but I thought it was a fantastic finish actually by Chris Wood.
Yeah,
And I think you've got to give an opponent credit when it's due. Nottingham Forest had a plan and they executed it fantastically in the first half. I mean, I think some of the recent games that we've seen, for example, the Carabao Cup game, the first half especially, I thought Liverpool were shocking. I thought they were really poor. And in the Forest game, I would describe them as ineffective. But the reason that they were ineffective was because Forest executed their game plan so effectively. And I think you've got to give the opponent credit for that.
yeah, I agree. The Chris Wood goal was really nice. I mean, that's a striker's goal across the goalie on the ground, far post, perfect shot. Nothing really you can do about that one. I don't think you can blame Allison at all for that, like you said. But I thought overall the team just kind of got stronger and stronger and stronger. And coach, it's a results business, and a lot of people kind of look at that first goal as a result of Allison maybe not being in the right spot. Completely disagree. It was just a nice counterattack. Chris Wood has been out of his mind this year. His numbers from an XG standpoint are relatively low, but he's so efficient. He gets a chance, he scores. So like you said, you tip your hat to that. But I thought the second half was kind of like especially towards the end of the game, was just a wave after wave. And the defense there made some very key blocks. Sells was incredible in goal for them. And they really kind of ran out of gas. Nottingham did, especially the wingers. They just could not carry the ball out. They were heavy-legged. And I thought Liverpool's just consistent pressure was going to get them the second goal, but hats off. There's a reason they're second in the Premier League. There's a reason. They have a very good defense. They have a goal scorer who's very efficient, and they have two, electric wingers from a pace standpoint on each side that can cause you problems. So yeah, a really good game overall. I thought the point was earned. Yes, could it have been 2 more points? Sure, but I'm not disappointed at all by it, especially with the fact that City tied after being up 2-0 and Chelsea tied. So even though we're kind of experiencing a slight dip, wouldn't call it like a complete dip, but there's a slight dip from what happened early on in the year. So the teams around us. So, we're still up 5 points or 5 points on Forest and 7 points, I believe, on Arsenal. So, yeah. So if Arsenal plays Tottenham today, North London derby, very difficult game. But overall, Coach, I think we're still in a very good spot. We have a game in hand, and the fact that teams around us aren't kind of pressuring us and pushing us is kind of, I think we can, as fans, be a little bit relaxed as far as with a dip in form, a couple ties on the bounce, but overall, still in a very good spot.
Yeah, I think the encouragement of the Forest game is clearly the second half performance, where basically, and I think you alluded to this, Liverpool wore them down because what was the possession? It was like 70-odd%. And so from a defensive point of view, that means that the Nottingham Forest players have to be chasing. They've got to be concentrated. And when it's relentless, then it becomes harder because they get fatigued both physically and mentally. And then Liverpool equalise. And then all of a sudden, there's a very, very clear momentum shift at that point. And you're right, the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, Sells, was called into action, and he did extremely well. And I think from a Liverpool perspective, that has to be encouraging. If you want to be critical, you can say, that as with the Fulham game, for example, I mean, even Manchester United played really well against Liverpool, but Liverpool created,
that was the best they played. Yeah,
so many chances, and you can say, well, look, there are 3 games, and even though Liverpool has great resources in the forward line, they didn't kind of get the 3 points on each occasion, because if they had, they would be so far in the distance. But I think, and I'm starting to hear this a lot, people are realizing that this is the first season since Leicester won the league where football is kind of returning to some degree of normality, in that it's, I mean, even though Liverpool have had a great run and everything, I wouldn't compare it to, some of the runs Manchester City have had, or Liverpool when they won the league, where they absolutely killed everybody. This Liverpool team is a good team, but it's not at that level. And I think some of the fans are, starting to get a little bit critical. And of course, the worry behind it all always comes back to, Liverpool's not signing anybody, and maybe they need to sign somebody, and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's pretty clear with Liverpool that, and it's been this way for a while now, that the days of Mario Balotelli, for example, being signed because there's nobody else, but they feel they need to sign somebody, those days are over. And Liverpool, for the first team, if they're going to put out a lot of money, then it's only going to be for somebody that they feel is worthwhile and fulfills what they need. So, if they're going to sign somebody and they're going to spend big bucks, let's make sure it's for a player that they really, really need, rather than, a lot of people are saying, well, Andy Robertson looks like he's on his last leg, so let's just sign a left back. Or let's just sign a central defender because Gomez is out, and if Konate goes down, Kwanzaa's kind of iffy. do you just sign anybody or do you sign somebody who's legitimate? So for example, if they were to sign Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace, that's a player that you're signing essentially to be a first team player. And so I think that you look at that is, do you really want him? Do you really see him as a first team player? I mean, obviously, I think Van Dijk is a lock, but do you want Gahey over Konate? So, I think that's a question that only the manager can answer. And then how does the manager handle the situation? And how does it upset the chemistry that the team already possesses? So it's possibly a lot more complex than we know, and the fan base in general knows. And anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. But I think there's a lot to be encouraged about drawing at Nottingham Forest last night. I mean, I was looking at the game, and at halftime, I'm thinking Liverpool don't look like scoring because Forest, the way they set up, is making it impossible. Credit then that they found a solution, and they could so easily have won the game.
Yeah, and historically, we have problems at Forest. Last year, if you remember, Darwin Núñez had that last-second header off of McAllister's pass to win the game. I mean, this is not an easy ground for us to go to. There are some teams that just kind of give you problems, and Nottingham Forest is one of them. They took 4 points off of us. I mean, they're in second place. Their goal differential is very low. It's +10 for like teams that are normally in the top 4, top 5. However, that defense is staunch. It's stingy. It does not allow easy goals. And yeah. Point gained and on to Brentford. Coach. You mentioned wanting to add people. You're hearing all this stuff, and I mean, I don't know when Liverpool fans are going to understand that we don't do what other teams do just to do it. We don't add people just to add people. You mentioned the Balotelli, experiment. We just don't do that. And, is it a little, less exciting? Sure. But, hey, we still have a very good team. Are there people that we want, to add? Zubamendi is now coming back. Supposedly Arsenal's interested in signing him. But I think the majority of the, as a marketplace goes, January is like a desperate time for teams. And other teams can charge a premium for this 1 month window where people are trying to strengthen or account for injuries or making a push to get out of the bottom or push to get into the top 4. However, summer is when we do our business, guys. Yes, have we added some people in January? Sure. Yeah, we added Van Dijk. Yes, a key member of the team, obviously. But generally speaking, the summer is going to be where the changes are going to be made. Left back, I think, is an opportunity for us. Trent looks potentially going to Madrid. Right back's going to be an opportunity, even though we have Connor Bradley. We're going to want another piece there. I think from a central defense standpoint, if the right thing comes along, maybe. But Konate, let's not forget how awesome Konate was. There was arguments at the beginning of the season that Konate was playing better than Van Dijk. So let's not forget about that. He's just getting back into the team, just getting over an injury. Konate will come good. Are we worried about his injury history? Yeah, a little bit, but it happens. It's a physical game, and the last injury he had versus Madrid was just a freak accident at the last second of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah. Liverpool goes to Brentford on Saturday, and I mean, they're a good team. Brentford. I have huge respect for the manager, Thomas Frank. Yeah. I think he's a great manager. I mean, personally, if he'd have been appointed by Liverpool, I'd have been happy with that. I suspect most of my peers would not have, but I think he's just a great manager, and it'll be a difficult game. they will probably play it tight. And I think anybody that kind of plays it tight against Liverpool, and whether you want to call it a low block or you want to call it parking the bus, I think Liverpool for years has always struggled with those kind of teams anyway. So it's a difficult game. I wouldn't say that a win is a given. And I think last night where they were trailing Manchester City by 2 goals, they fought back. And they're a good team. And it'll be a tough game.
Yeah, and they were dangerous the whole first half too. Brentford was against Manchester City, and then Foden pops up with 2 goals, but they kept fighting and did us a solid tying City. They have some, a couple stud players. Visa and Mbeumo are very, very good players. I think Mbeumo could play on a lot of top 4 teams and be a starter. He's that good. And Visa on his day is an excellent striker. So there's absolutely a threat with them going forward. Yeah, if they park the bus, there's a reason that's a good strategy for teams facing, teams like Liverpool, Manchester City, etc. It's a good strategy because it limits their capability of having easy sights on goal. So that's why the strategy is put in place. It's not in place because it's easy to overcome. It's in place because it's very difficult, and it's not something that a lot of teams can figure it out. But normally, an early goal kind of gets things going. So maybe another set piece goal can kind of get them off of their low block and have them have to push out a little bit. But yeah, I think you're right, Coach. Brentford does play very well at home. However, I would like to see 3 points. 1 point would be okay too, but I would like to see 3 points. I want to kind of get back to that momentum and kind of get out of this mini dip, mini slump we're in, which hasn't been really that bad. We're just tying a couple of more games than we want to, and we lost the Tottenham game in the Carabao Cup, but there's 2 legs to that, and we know how much of a sieve that defense can be. We could easily put 5 on them, hang 5 on them on the return leg.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be a game where Liverpool, as usual, has the possession, and Brentford, like Nottingham Forest, has their pace on the break. And again, thinking about the Forest goal yesterday, I mean, Wood and Elanga had the kind of space moving into attack that Liverpool at the other end of the field didn't have. And I think it's going to be the same against Brentford. And they do have those 2 boys up front who are pacey. They know where the goal is. And I think Mbeumo, I believe, is a player that Liverpool might consider. And I think other top 4 teams are keeping a beady eye on, shall we say. So
sure.
So yeah, it's going to be an interesting, tough game for Liverpool FC.
Coach, when we just kind of rewind a little bit to the Accrington Stanley game versus in the FA Cup, not versus, and a 4-0 victory, relative ease. They did pose a couple problems going forward. But these types of games are where we can kind of flip the squad and bring in a lot of people to play that don't usually get a lot of playing time. I believe the next game in the FA Cup is versus Plymouth, and another kind of similar type of thing. The FA Cup is a very prestigious tournament in England, Coach. The FA Cup is big history. A lot of teams are involved in it, from 3rd, 4th divisions all the way to the Premiership. The fact that we have a bit of a luckier draw getting Plymouth, that's pretty nice, and gives a lot of people more playing time. What are your thoughts on Accrington Stanley's the game, and then kind of moving forward to Plymouth?
Yeah, I mean the Accrington Stanley game, as you rightly point out, was a chance to rotate, bring in some of the bench type players, some of the youth players from the academy. And that's what Slot did. We expected him to do it. He did it. I thought it was a game where Liverpool pretty much played the entire match in second gear, because it wasn't necessary for them to go through the gears to get a result. And in the end, they won very, very comfortably. A gallant performance by the League Two team, but I don't think Liverpool were ever looking like they could be eliminated or anything like that. So it wasn't like the Tamworth experience, say, that the Tottenham Hotspur had.
Right.
But going to the Tottenham Hotspur game, I mean, obviously that was a non-league team, but they're playing on turf. The weather was very cold. And so there are other elements and things that come into a game and a performance. And I think Plymouth Argyle, like the bottom of the championship right now, but they're 2 divisions above Accrington Stanley, so they'll have better players. It'll be their cup final, and right. I think that's as they say, I think that's a banana skin, and I doubt Arnie Slot will take it too lightly. But I think it's a good game, really, to test, say, the Harvey Elliots of this world. I mean, I don't know how he will deal with the next Champions League game against Lille. I think most fans and myself included would like to see him rotate because Liverpool essentially have qualified for the knockout rounds, and it doesn't matter if they lose the next 2 games. Like they're top now, and that's great. It illustrates the team has played well, they've done well, but at the end of the day, they've already accomplished the aim. And whilst I don't like Liverpool to lose games, I think I'd rather lose to Lille than the Premier League game that follows it next week. So I have to believe that the manager will maybe slightly prioritise games differently. And so something like the second leg of the Carabao Cup, he might see that as more important than the 2 remaining league games in the Champions League. Wrong, but that's what I would imagine.
Yeah. 18 points, 6 wins out of 6. There's 8 games, I believe. So, we have Lille and PSV left, 21st and the 29th, respectively. And then Ipswich is sandwiched between them after that. So, Coach, Arne Slot's done a really good job. And, going through this slight dip, I'm actually more encouraged. 20 seconds after he makes the substitution for Tsimikas to bring in Tsimikas and Jota, they combined for the goal off the corner kick. Jota was a menace when he came on as well. He played really well, got a couple shots off. So I really like that Jota's kind of finding his way back in, getting healthy. But Coach, what do we do now that we have a left-hand issue from a standpoint of we have 2 very good players, and how do we rotate them? Diaz is, on any day can be a match winner. He scores goals in bunches, and it seems like Gakpo's in a nice run of form as well. What do we do here?
Yeah. These are good questions to pose to the manager, really. I see that a lot of people are kind of writing off the Diaz as a centre forward, and I think it's not his best position, but I think he's been effective in some games. He was never going to be effective yesterday because Forest packed it in. He drops back into midfield, which is one of the things he likes to do when he plays that role. and there was just no space. There was no space anymore, and it seemed to throw him off his game because the one opportunity that Liverpool did have in the first half is where they broke. I think it was following a Nottingham Forest corner, and Diaz had the ball going down the field, and I can't remember who came up outside him, and he just took. It was a Gakpo. He took too long to make a decision, and so it was intercepted. And whereas if he'd have given it quickly, Gakpo would have been through on goal, and so he was thrown off his game a little bit last night. I think there will be opportunities where he can be effective in that role, but if you're going to play a team that's packing in at the back, you really need somebody who is more physical and will get in the faces of the of the opposing players. And I don't think that's Diaz's natural game. So do you flip Gakpo and Diaz? I think that's something that the manager might have to consider. A player that's being written off to some degree is Darwin Núñez. I mean, I think Núñez, even if he's not scoring, can give an opposing team something to think about in the middle of the park or the central defence anyway. So yeah, these are all things. Slot is a smart manager, and kind of interesting to hear you say, as you pointed out quite correctly, that the two subs go on and they instantly combine for a goal. But I'm seeing some people saying, "Oh well, he held off on the subs too long," and so I guess when you don't get wins, then everybody, even the manager who's doing a fantastic job, is vulnerable to criticism.
Yeah, but is it reasonable criticism? I don't think it is, and I know you don't think it is either. Coach, another thing about Lucho, being in that false nine, Forest wasn't following him out. They weren't. One of their defenders were not following him up the field, so it was kind of ineffective because all he could do is just, when he dropped off, was just combine. And at one point, the commentators said he's been their best midfielder, which I thought was kind of really showed that Forest could care less if he dropped back. I think Arne Slot's going to figure these things out as he goes along, and he gets better and he understands the league more and what managers are trying to do. But I mean, good God, we're first, and we have a game in hand. We're 5 points up. Let's make sure that we kind of look big picture here, guys. We are in a very, very good spot. If Coach and I were to tell you that mid-January we'd be top of the league, 5 points up, and with a game in hand, everybody would say, "Yep, we'll take it." So, Coach,
I mean, go on. No, I was just going to say, you've just got to look at the season as it is right now. Liverpool aren't going to run away with the league like they did a few years ago. That's not going to happen. They're going to drop points, and it seems like everybody else is going to drop points because it's, as I say, it's football returning to relative normality again. So, that's just what it is.
Yeah. Coach, the Champions League is starting back up. Lille, PSV, we kind of talked about that. Transfer market. So we touched on it. January is not our window per se, although we have signed some players and we've done some good business in the past, but we're not going to sign people just to sign people. When you look at this team with the potential of Trent, Virgil, and Mo potentially being gone, I have a sense that the Virgil deal will get done relatively soon. But with Mo and Trent, let's assume that they're gone and Virgil stays. We mentioned Mbeumo, right, being a right-hand sided player, obviously not to the caliber of Salah, but also when you have better players around you, that can elevate your game as well. So he's a potential replacement. But when you look at the team overall, where are some spots that you see that you'd like to, that you identify that there's potential areas of improvement?
I think my first thought would be midfield. I think my first thought for sure would be in the midfield. So yeah, I don't know who else Liverpool is looking at right now. And there's nobody kind of immediately coming to my mind in terms of Premier League midfielders, that I'd like to see at Anfield. I think the kind of players that I tend to think of more are players like Semenyo from Bournemouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be a good player for Liverpool, but he's a little more of an offensive type player, attacking player. There's some good left back candidates. If they're looking to bring in a successor for Andy Robertson, the boy at Bournemouth, Kirk.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the American Robinson at Fulham, who they might be put off by him because is he 27, 28?
Yeah, he's 27. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and he has a Merseyside connection because he started off at Everton's academy.
Okay.
And so they must be looking at. I think they must be looking at him and thinking, how do we let him go? Because he's he's having an awesome season for Fulham. Mm-hmm. So I think left back, central defender possibly. I think that those would be the priorities. But again, it always comes down to the manager because now he knows what the players are like. How do they marry to his system? Who is out there that he feels can enhance his system? And so I don't think it's clear because essentially he's inherited Jurgen Klopp's squad. He's tweaked it, as people say, here and there. But we don't know exactly what's in his head in terms of how he wants to advance the team forward, build upon what Klopp has done, and maybe refine it even more. So I think Slot will play a key part in who comes in next in terms of big buys for the team.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would imagine anyway. That's what I would imagine. And Alexander-Arnold goes, I think logically, Bradley inherits the position. Will they look to sign somebody? Maybe. Van Dijk, I think he's going to stay. I agree with you. Salah, I'd say that's 50-50.
Yeah.
I think he's making all the noises that he wants to stay, but the question mark is what is the problem? What is the problem here? Does it come down to money? Does it come down to the length of the contract?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if Salah goes, then there'll be pressure on the club to bring in a name or somebody that's highly touted. So I know there's the other Egyptian player that's playing over in the Bundesliga. I'm blanking on his name. Yeah, I know Manchester City are looking at him now. So
yeah, Marmoush, I think.
Yeah, Marmoush.
Yeah.
So if Manchester City would look at the thing and say, well, if we sign Marmoush, sometimes clubs will sign a player to deny a rival a player.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't help but wonder about that one. So yeah, all I'm hearing about transfers is there's a lot of Liverpool fans still complaining because nobody's been signed. And of course, from a club perspective, if everything does go south this year and they don't win the league or they don't win silverware, then I guess there's a lot of ammunition for people to kind of put in their gun, as it were, because
Right.
they haven't signed anybody. So
yeah. Yeah, Subamendi popping back up is interesting, and that would be obviously he was our top choice over the summer. It'd be interesting if we could hijack that one. I am also reading and watching things that show that Darwin is being shopped around as well, but they want to get the 50 to 60 million on him, which I don't know how you're going to do that. But if anybody can do it, it's Michael Edwards and the team there. Um, and I still think Darwin's a good player. I just, it just for some reason didn't work out here. Overall, he had some good moments. He works hard. There's no complaints about that. But at the end of the day, a striker has to put the ball in the goal, and he's had difficulties here. So moving him would make sense to me. Yeah, I agree with a left back. I think that's necessary, and I think Kirkes makes all the sense in the world. He's 23. There's a Hungarian connection with him and Szoboszlai. So Szoboszlai could get in his ear about that as well. I'm sure, when they go to international duty and play, there's, conversations amongst players about teams and clubs and coaches and all that stuff. So he would be a nice addition. Yeah, Bradley definitely would slot in. I think although Bradley's a bit of a different player than Trent, Trent is a master, a 10 out of 10 when it comes to distribution. And that's not necessarily Bradley's game, but Bradley from a defensive standpoint, not saying that Trent is as bad as people say, but Bradley is an upgrade there from a defensive standpoint. So, a lot of stuff is going to happen, in the next 6 months for sure. The team has some contracts they have to deal with, has some spots where they could get better, and we'll see as it all boils down. It's exciting though that we have a good manager in place. We have a good team. We're top of the league in both the Premier League and Champions League. We have a game in hand here. There's a lot to be excited about, a lot to be optimistic about, and the fact that we went through this little dip and we lost to Tottenham in a Carabao Cup game where there's a second leg, and like I said, we know how that game can turn out. So overall, the fact that he's managed these difficult teams, and United's always a tough game usually, minus a couple instances where we thrashed them. And Nottingham just being a difficult team to play at Nottingham, and they're a good team as well. So overall, I'm happy. Would love to see a signing also, but I don't expect it, and I wouldn't be. I'm not going to be upset if there's no signing.
Right. So yeah, right, yeah. There's a lot of positives, and it's going to be an interesting couple of months coming up.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time as always. And folks, Coach and or myself, we'll hop on after the Brentford game, maybe not directly right after, but within, that evening at the latest from our standpoint. And we will see you then. Brentford at Brentford. Let's try to get 3 points there and extend our lead a little bit. And thank you to the Premier League squads that are not taking advantage of us kind of faulting a little bit. And we will see you guys next time. We love the Reds. Please subscribe to the channel. Although these are live streams, you can catch them at any point in time. We are live on Facebook as well now. And excited for you guys to join our community with Coach and I, and interested in hearing your thoughts and how you guys feel about this team. There are a lot of different ways different angles to look at how we're doing. And from a transfer market, it is an exciting time. But overall, we'd love to get you guys in our community and talk a little bit more about the mighty Reds. Coach, as always, thank you. And everybody, take care. We will talk to you after the Brentford game.
Bye now.